In current chat exhibitions, we are showing the tapestries made by the Aziz and Cucher, and which are in our collection. So in the light of the COVID-19, so we are going to talk about how to reflect the artworks, and also the current exhibition is also offering the alternative way to interrupt the artworks through the literature and the poem. So I also going to ask the Aziz and Cucher books or poem or writings which inspire them. Okay, shall we start? Okay, so then, hello, Sammy and Anthony.
Hello, Mizuki. And thank you for inviting us and for allowing us to communicate with you.
We are presenting two among the three tapestry this time.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the show is curated by my colleague Wei, and the interesting thing in her curation, she actually is hanging the tapestry in the middle of the space so that the visitor also can see the back of the tapestry.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah. So her intention is the tapestry back and front looks so different.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So so therefore how their single mothers having double faced.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. It's a very beautiful show. I'm really happy. So anyway, so why don't we the start about your the current situation, or how did you spend your life since the epidemic of COVID-19 start? So how was your life?
I think at first we were in shock, like so many people, and we've gone through many emotional transformations. But I think right now we're feeling very sad more than anything else, because we see what's happened not only in terms of public health, but the political dimension of a virus, which didn't need to become politicized, but it did. And for me, that makes me very sad to watch a society be pulled apart yet again because of the politicization of public health. So that's how I'm feeling today about it.
Yeah,
it makes me very angry and very sad.
Yeah, but in general, I think we did like so many other people did. We stayed at home. We were lucky because we are both teachers and we still had our jobs teaching, and that required also a big adaptation to teach remotely, to teach online, to have this kind of communication with our students. And navigating the strange empty streets for March, April, May. New York is a very vibrant city full of people, and it was really strange to see the streets empty, to be afraid to go to the supermarket, to be afraid to go there was you could not go to any restaurants, you could not go to any theaters, you could not go to any museums. So life became very very small. And we made an effort to stay in touch with our friends, to have Zoom cocktail hours, things like that. Everybody was very keen on trying to stay in touch because the human presence was really
taken away,
but also was very important to maintain, that sense of friendship, of society, of community. But it was hard, I imagine for everybody, it was really hard.
Yeah, but how about your artistic productions? Because some artists, they say that oh dear, I'm always working alone. So anyway, and this time many shows and events are canceled. That's also gives kind of the momentum for the artist to focus on the productions. How about that?
In our case, we did not see it an opportunity to jump into something right away because we tend to work more slowly and because our work is often tied to historical patterns. So with the tapestries, for example, a lot of the imagery, even in that work, which was made before, is still somehow resonating in this moment now. So I think a few months or even years from now, we'll be able to look back and be able to put this moment into context.
And yeah, I just want to, second that and say that our process, I think that for a moment we were also questioning, well, how does art work in this moment? What is the role that art can play? And I don't think we had any answers just ready to come, and say, oh, this is it. I think it was a lot of confusion, and for us, that's it takes time to.
Well, I think it's about value. I think we lost sense of what the value of artistic production was in a moment of extraordinary crisis when so many people were getting sick and dying and losing their jobs and struggling, really.
And the economy collapsing and travel restrained. I mean, it was such a transformation of the world that for us it was just not possible to go in the studio and go like this. We had to stay on top of trying to understand. But now we're starting. 5 months later, we're starting to be in the studio more and to start to come up with some ideas and some things.
Yeah. I also understand because the things are so complicated.
Right.
It's also difficult to capture what's going on, right? So I totally understand. So we cannot, react so instantly.
Yeah, I think that there are many artists who have a very dedicated practice, like painters, for example, who are very much involved in the notion of painting, in the notion of, that has a material kind of base. For them, it's easy to go into the process. But our process is very conceptual. And so it requires a lot of bringing together ideas and facts. And also, we rely a lot on photographing people in our studio, on working with dancers, working with people. And that was simply not possible during that time, and still it's not possible to bring, other than the two of us into the studio and organize a photo shoot or a video shoot. It's just not possible.
Yeah, you just talking about the motifs, in your tapestry. It's that's the resonate to the current situation. I'm really surprised. When we hung the tapestries, these times the people wearing the medical uniforms, and also the spectacular things, and then people taking the pictures with mobile phone. That's actually the scenes where the witnessed in last few months through their TV or social media. That's how do you look at your tapestry? How do you reflect on them?
Well, the thing is that we of course are in the middle of a very, very terrible crisis right now, but it's not the first time that the world experiences crisis, or some part of the world experiences crisis. Like, for example, you mentioned that in our tapestry, the road, there are these people wearing medical uniform, masks, and all that.
Yeah.
And we designed that tapestry around 2014, 15, or something like that. And you have to remember, there was something called the Ebola crisis. There was H1, I forget, H1H. There's a virus that came also, avian flu virus or swine flu virus. So this notion of health crisis is something that has been going on in our perception already for a long time. It's just that all of a sudden now it really is everywhere in the world at the same time. But those things were always in the back of our mind, that we live in a very fragile world, and that this confluence of of different kinds of fragility, whether it's immigration or health or climate or war, between countries, or all those things are always present, but it takes like a specific situation to bring them all together. And I think that through our work, we have always kind of put a bit of an idea of imagining, well, what if those things all came together at the same time? Then you have a tapestry that looks like that.
But on the other hand, I also think this is also not easy to think. Well, the image, the portrait in the pictures, of the tapestry, makes us think that these are happening. Happening in our surroundings. When I saw this tapestry a few years ago, I still thought that this is the things. I know those kind of things are happening somewhere in this world. But I didn't imagine, people wearing the mask and the medical uniforms coming to my apartment to rescue the patient. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that nobody imagines that, but I think that that's why we think of these works as fiction. We don't think they are real
kind
in
of
any way.
Sci-fi apocalyptic dystopian fiction. But now we're kind of living that partially. Not to the same dramatic effect, because a lot of what's going on with the coronavirus, you don't even see. You don't see anything except for the mask. No. But you read about it, you hear about it, you learn about it. So what we've done with representation is to imagine this fantastic catastrophe, but it's also kind of understated because it ties to kind of history of painting. So it goes back and forward at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So therefore, I feel like, so now your tapestry at my background, but I feel like in the, one of the figure in your tapestry now.
Oh yeah.
Well, we feel that way too. Maybe that's something that has happened with our work a lot, is that we make the work and somehow the reality, it kind of like catches up with the work, because our work has always had a little bit of maybe a science fictional or a kind of like imagination of a future. Even our earliest work, from 30 years ago, had always that thing about losing the face or things that were that we were thinking about how technology is going to affect our bodies and things like that. And of course, it doesn't happen exactly in the same way that we thought it would, but you do hear a lot of people today thinking, well, what is the internet doing? What is social media doing to our identity? What is social media doing to our sense of self and stuff like that? And so it's like, what we saw 30 years ago has come to become a reality in a different way, but it has to, the work keeps sticking to the reality because it had a certain way of looking into the future. So, so maybe the tapestries are also working in the same way. That reality caught up with them.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember, Mizuki, that the first tapestries that we made that you saw in London, some people, came out of a long project that we did that was really rooted in the conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine and the Arab world and the Jewish world coming together, and that sort of gave birth to a set of circumstances that were always in conflict. So then we took the idea of conflict and conflicting ideologies and started to represent that more abstractly and more broadly. So I think even what's happening now, you still see this battle of ideologies playing out within the moment of crisis.
Yeah, yes. It's a long way, and also, it's not easy to, to imagine the optimistic vision of the future now. So, yeah.
No, it's not very easy. But we have to also trust that maybe this kind of crisis or this kind of very hard moment will lead to some positive change. It might not be in the tapestries. I mean, we might not be able to. You have not made that leap, but I think that a lot of young people and who are seeing the future differently than we do. Who have to take, who have to see the future as something that offers some kind of possibility for them. Because we are older, we have lived our lives and we have benefited from, a lot of good years of prosperity and progress and many good things. So we have to believe that for them, the world will keep offering also some prosperity and good things. But right now, it's a lot of important decisions need to be made, and a lot of social political change has to happen for that future to be open for the young people to take advantage of.
Yeah. Okay, so I have asked you to introduce the book or writings which inspire you, right?
Yeah.
And do you have you pick up anything?
Yeah, we do, but let me just say a little bit that we don't often work from literature. It's not something that we, it's not like a basis for our work. We work much more from current events or from the media, from the news, like the news, the images that are floating in the, in the kind of like in the society. Those are the things that inspire us. But we both read a lot, and we both are very, attuned to literature and that. But it's not always a direct relationship between what we make and what we are reading. But that said, when we did the project, Some People, which includes the tapestries plus all the other videos that came with it. I mean, so it's really a kind of like a 10-year project that started around, we started thinking about it in 2006, and we gave it a big push in 2009 because we were lucky to have a collector sponsor a big research trip for us that took us to the Middle East and into the Balkans, in Europe and Berlin. And at that time, we discovered the poetry of Wisława Szymborska. And I don't know if this is a name that you know. Maybe I can share the screen here for a moment.
It's the last name.
Szymborska, yeah.
But I was
going to go here online.
So we even borrowed her title. As you can see, it's called Some People.
Yeah, so this poem, I mean, a lot of her poetry, but this poem in particular became almost like can we say like a guide, like a light that takes you, into exploring the images, into exploring the situations. And it's called Some People. And it says, some people flee some other people in some country under a sun and some clouds. And this image of just people fleeing in the landscape with the sun and the clouds, that was enough to in a way kind of, almost generate all the imagery that came out of this project. I mean, there are other images in the poem about, becoming invisible, about looking for protection, about being in fear of being discovered. So all these images very much resonated very, very strongly in our mind and inspired, a lot of the imagery in the work.
And the beauty of this poem, like all good poetry, is that it was written at a particular time and about a particular place, but it becomes very universal and very general, even though it was about, like, at the end of the war in Europe, with people fleeing a war-torn country, looking for some kind of humanity. this is a story that repeats through time and history.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
How did you encounter this poem? Did you happen to encounter this poem, or did you know the author before?
No, I think we found it in the New Yorker magazine, and the New Yorker magazine publishes poetry always. And then we realized that they had been publishing her poetry for many years. I mean, before she became very well known, they had been constantly publishing her poetry in English. I mean, she wrote in Polish, but these are, we felt, I mean, we don't know Polish, neither of us, but somehow we feel that these are probably very good translations.
Because it's the kind of poetry that isn't complicated. It's very straightforward and very sharp way the language is used.
Yeah, then we read more and learned more about her poetry, and we know that she was very interested in this kind of simplicity of language and a language that is very direct and creating metaphor and imagery out of almost very minimal kind of way of writing. So we imagine that these are good translations, and even and the reason also is because even when you read them in English, they affect you not only emotionally, but they also, the rhythm is there, the way that the language, you know, works together is there. So we were very taken, and we bought then a book of her collected poems and studied them and looked at them and were very moved by them. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, Anthony and Sammy. And
always lovely to see you.
Yeah. Looking for the date for the reunion.
Yeah, wonderful. And we hope that we can see each other in person. Soon in the real world sometime soon.
Yes. Okay. So stay safe and protected. Okay. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.